Hello and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy Podcast for November 12th, 2024. This is episode 321. Stand-up comedian, actor, and improviser and dreamer Paul Green. Coming to you sharing my journey, thoughts, and insights as I pursue my dreams in the hopes that you might pursue yours as well. And this week is going to be a long one. This is Tech Week for the patent-pending sketch comedy troupe, which I joined a couple of months ago, and we are debuting our sketch comedy show this weekend. And so we have been in the theater since yesterday, running light cues, which is not nearly as fun as it sounds. It's a lot of just stand and wait and do nothing while the tech booth tries to figure out how to get all of the lighting cues for the entire show programmed. So it has been fairly arduous, fairly tedious. But as I have said before, I think I shared this recently, is I think it was Jerry Seinfeld on the Howard Stern radio show. And Jerry was talking about how even today he can't go a day without sitting down and writing for several hours, and that everything that he observes throughout the day, he's always just trying to find ways to turn it into a joke and to turn it into material and how to make it funny. And Howard Stern made some comment of like, that sounds horrible, that like you can't just go throughout your day without trying to find jokes in everything that you do. And Jerry just said along the lines of, well, you have to choose the suck that you can handle. Because no matter what job you have, no matter what dream you're pursuing, there's always going to be a sucky part of it. And so finding a dream that has the suck or that the sucky elements of it are bearable or tolerable, and that the benefits of the dream far outweigh the sucky, tedious parts. So, running light cues on a Tuesday night for hours and hours and hours, that's kind of the sucky part of being in a comedic production, but totally worth it. I'm very much looking forward to the show. And, it's just a fun show. It's very well written. We're doing our best to make it, a good production, but this sketch, it's like community theater, so we have no budget. The woman who runs it was like, hey, I bought some of these costumes on Amazon, so please don't mess them up because I need to return them. I need to return them after this show. I think Amazon has like a 30-day return policy, so but it's humbling to see her and how much work her and the other administrators of this sketch comedy troupe have put into it, the writers and producers and directors, and very grateful, very humbled. And this whole thing just came about sort of on a whim. So I belong to all of these online casting networks. I say all of these, maybe like 4 of them. And every day they're emailing out available roles. And I honestly will respond almost never anymore. Because first of all, like 98% of every role that comes on these casting websites for non-union actors is like background work or like student films, that sort of stuff. And don't get me wrong, when I first moved to LA, I did so many of those types of projects. I did so many student films. I did so many like indie projects. It's like, I would book something and show up to film, and it's literally like one guy with a handheld camera. Like, that is the production team. Now I've booked stuff that had like full scale production teams, complete trailers and, just a slew of staff all over the place and cast and crew. But anyway, since moving back to Arizona, I have not been as actively involved in acting. I've done some commercial work and some stuff like that, but this casting notification showed up on one of those websites. And when I say showed up, I mean I got an email, because all of them are designed to send emails with potential roles that would be a fit for you. And it just said, looking for comedic actors for a sketch comedy group. And so I submitted. I got invited to an audition. I auditioned, and then they booked me in the cast. And it just all happened very randomly. That was probably the only role I submitted for in months and months and months. And it's like one for one. So getting to connect with the cast, starting to see the show come together, really excited, and I am very grateful. So I'm not going to report much more on that. All I got to say is, whatever your dream is, keep your eyes open for opportunities, because the opportunities will come the more you put yourself out there. And like we've probably heard 100 times, it may not always come in the way that we want or the way that we think it'll come, but it will come. So with that, I have been commenting on the book called Mind Magic, and it just occurred to me, I think I've been calling it Magic Mind. I think I've been reversing the book title. It's called Mind Magic, and it's an interesting book written by a neuroscientist, as he really tries to unlock, from a scientific standpoint, the actual physical capacities and processes within the brain, and how the more that we can understand and comprehend that, the more that we can then train our brains to work for us instead of against us. Because these beautiful little machines hanging out in our brains, for some reason, as smart as we all are, we know full well that we also can use that same brain to really mess some stuff up if we want. So today's chapter was changing beliefs or negative beliefs to their opposite. And this chapter was more of an exercise. The book serves as sort of a quasi workbook. So between chapters, there will be like meditations and exercises. A lot of the exercises just involve meditating and then having a journal and then journaling with a specific focus. Well, today's focus, again, was turning opposite beliefs into positive beliefs. Now, this is a very fascinating concept for me, and one that I think goes pretty deep. And man, where do I even begin with this? So I have studied some, not a ton, but a couple of books, and I've heard some TED Talks and some podcasts and stuff that have discussed this idea of the power of our self-belief and how that belief really influences the world that we create for ourselves. Now, I understand that there are certain restrictions and certain boundaries that differ from human to human, and everybody's born with their own unique set of circumstances, their own unique set of resources and assets and DNA and propensities and all of that very fun stuff. But what I have learned and what I am learning more and more is that what we really truly believe, and not what we say we believe, because it is easy to do lip service to a belief. But I mean belief like deep down in our hardwired programming that really dictates our hierarchy of values that will influence every single decision that we make. And a lot of time, those belief systems are not authentically ours. Matter of fact, I would say they're probably almost never authentically ours, because every one of us is a product of some group of human beings who went before us. Probably the most obvious being our own parents, but then, there's church communities, there's government communities, there's, hobby communities. There's just so many different influences in our lives that are programming without our knowledge certain belief systems about how the world works, about how we show up in the world, and what is the proper way, or in a religious context, what is the righteous way versus the sinful way? What's the faithful way? In a country context, what's the patriotic way to show up, or depending on what way you swing politically, what's the correct political belief systems and hierarchies of values that you should have. I mean, there are just so many different influences that are constantly either programming a belief within us or challenging that belief. And I really do want to emphasize that so much of this is subconscious. We don't even sometimes know the underlying belief that is driving which could be some of our most significant life decisions. I think I've shared this story before, but it just popped in my mind, so I'm gonna share it again. I remember, like, in high school, I had this kind of crappy old TV in my room, but it was a TV and it worked. And my younger brother had this really nice stereo. And I remember I had this sort of, do I want to call it inspiration? I'll call it inspiration because I don't have a better word. I mean, it really wasn't inspiring. It was just this thought that I had. So we'll just say that. So I had this thought of, watching TV every night is not a noble activity. And at that time, I was very heavily involved in music. I was in the school jazz band and in the marching band. I might have been in the choir, depending on what year this was. I was on the drum line. I played percussion. I was learning to play piano. So I was, again, very heavily involved in music. And I was being encouraged by my jazz professors to listen to jazz music all the time. That's their big thing. It's like, you just got to listen all the time, immerse yourself in the music. And I remember thinking at that time, you want to know what? I should ask my brother if we can swap the stereo for the television, which to him would feel like he's getting the deal of a lifetime, because a TV is so much more cool to have in your room than just a stereo. I mean, you can watch TV. So he thought he was winning the lottery, But to me, I felt I was getting the, I don't know if I want to say a better deal, but I was getting a more noble deal. I was getting a more righteous deal because I was sacrificing TV for a stereo. And with that stereo, I was then going to be able to listen to jazz music and jazz records and CDs and, improve as a musician. And that little experience to me that I had is a good metaphor or analogy for how certain belief systems and value systems can influence us to make decisions, which may actually on the surface seem, batshit crazy to anybody else who doesn't understand what your value system is. But makes perfect sense to the person exhibiting the behavior. And that's because the belief system under that behavior justifies what it is that they're doing and drives what they're doing. And so there's no real, well, there might be some hesitation from time to time, but it's just our belief systems, our hierarchy of values is ultimately what is going to determine all of our outcomes in life. And, given our circumstances, and again, I am not ignorant of the fact that there can be outside influences beyond our control that throw us off the path or throw us off where we thought we would be at any certain given time in our life. But you get what I mean. So ultimately what this book is talking about is consciously identifying the beliefs that you have, determining if those beliefs are reliable, if they serve you, if they're really true to who you really are. And if they aren't, then you have the choice, and I have the choice, to consciously change what it is that we believe and change what our hierarchy of values are and change what is most important for us to, as individuals to pursue and to dedicate our time to and resources to. And again, what I like about this chapter is it's a bit of a workbook. So he says, do a meditation and then write on your piece of paper a column, and on, one side of the column, put the belief that you identify, but then on the other column, put the belief that you would like to have, that you would like to be able to, whatever the belief system or whatever the values are that are going to bring you the most happiness, help you accomplish the dreams that you want to accomplish, independent of any outside influence, as much as that is possible, which, trust me, just completely ignoring any outside influence is near impossible. But as best as you can, asking yourself, what is it that I really want? Do I have the belief systems consistent to generate the behavior necessary to accomplish that dream? And if the belief isn't strong enough, then maybe it's time to examine whether the dream you're trying to pursue is the best one for you, or maybe it's time to examine. I mean, there could be plenty of reasons or examinations to explore why certain dreams aren't happening or coming true. So, everybody, I hope this was helpful, and my invitation is to explore what it is that you really truly believe. And if you're not really sure what you really truly believe, then look at your day-to-day actions. Well, what do I do every day? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? How do I behave? Do I get upset? Am I sad? Am I friendly? Am I industrious? Am I working, 20 hours a day? Or am I, like whatever it is? because whatever your actions are, there is a belief hidden underneath that. And that belief is saying, hey, whatever action you're taking right now is justified within your personal belief systems and within your personal hierarchy of values. And so, if you wake up and you find yourself, at a day job in a cubicle, then you can say, what is the belief underneath why I am working here at this job? And then look at that belief and determine if that belief is effective, if that belief is getting you what you want. And if it isn't, then you have the conscious choice to choose a different belief. And I know that sounds easier said than done, and it is not easy at all to do that, because a lot of these beliefs are ingrained so deeply, and they have been such an integral part of our personal identity and our life journey and our experiences, that to even imagine that those beliefs could potentially maybe be harming us or not the optimal belief system for what it is we are claiming that we want. Oh my gosh, I totally lost my train of thought there. Anyway, the point I'm driving at, everybody, look at those beliefs, and if those beliefs are not serving you, then swap them out for new ones and see if the new beliefs change the behavior, and the behavior will change the outcomes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Paul Green Comedy Podcast for November 12th, 2024, episode 321. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you tomorrow.